we all know, today is our plenary session, which means that we'll have a time for recap on the various sessions we've had, after which we'll have a question and answer session. And for those of us that have comments to make, please, we'll welcome it so that we can discuss further on this topic. And at this time, I also want to welcome our online viewers. So welcome to today's lead session, and we expect to hear from you also. All right, so our topic the last 2 Sundays has been on nucleus of leadership. Nucleus of leadership. And the reason we're having this discussion is because in our society and in the world generally, now more than ever, we need true leadership. Do you agree with me? Good. And when we talk about leadership, leadership cuts across so many spheres. You have leadership in the home, you have leadership in business, you have leadership in church, you have leadership in, the political system, and so on and so forth. But I dare say that the quality of leadership determines how far an organization can go. And if you will agree with me also, which I know you would, in our country now, one of the things we know that we lack is leadership, good leadership rather. Because in terms of resources, we have them. But the leadership, the good leadership to be able to harness them purposefully is one thing that is really missing. So I'm really happy that we have this opportunity to discuss on the nucleus of leadership. Another thing again is that when you talk about nucleus of leadership, we're not just talking about several nuggets that you can just pin down from any John Maxwell book, because anybody can just read several John Maxwell books and just begin to pin out some nuggets, define leadership is this and all that. Everybody can do that. But talking about nucleus of leadership, we are drilling deeper, not just about those shallow definitions, but the main motivation behind what we do and why we do them. That is what we are discussing. So we're going to go through some slides, and everything is anchored on this text. Psalm 78, verse 72. It says, his heart made him a good shepherd. He guided the people wisely and well. Now, if you look closely at these verses, it shows that this is hinged on 3 main stands. The first one is talking about a good heart. Then we're talking about wisdom, because he guided the people wisely. Then we're talking about leading the people well. All right. So there are some slides that we considered, to buttress our point. And this is from Jack Welch. Jack Welch is a foremost renowned leader in the business sphere. And it says, before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about what? Growing others. All right. So, in our discussion, we said one thing that separates leaders from other people is that leaders are different. Some say leaders are born, some say leaders are made, some say others have leadership trust on them. But there's something that separates leaders from other people. They are different. They do things differently, they think differently, and they see differently. Then we talked about the iceberg theory. And we said leadership is divided into leadership skill and leadership character. Now, the iceberg theory tells us that when you see an iceberg, you only see 10% above the water. The rest 90% is beneath the water. So that tells us that the part you don't see usually is more critical than the part you see. So in terms of leadership skill and character, skill can be learned by anyone. Anybody can learn leadership skill, planning, delegation, and so on and so forth. But leadership character takes time to develop. And leadership character is what sustains leadership skill. So in our previous discussion, we said, when you have leadership character and skill, we should prefer character. In other words, if you are hiring skill or character, hire character rather. Because, I'll just digress a little bit. Because, like I said, skill can be learned. Anybody can have skill, but character is what sustains skill. Anybody can rise to the top of the echelon of leadership, but it is character that will sustain and keep you. A lot of people are anointed in church. A lot of people are gifted. A lot of people are talented. But you see, talent is not enough. Gifts are not enough. You see, your gift is something that people see, recognize, and reward. So people can reward you for your gift and take you to the top. But it is character that will keep you there. Because character is who you are when nobody is looking. So we have some definitions that, yes, I said leadership skill is what leaders do, easy to learn, but character is what drives leaders, drives what they do and why, and is a true reflection of who we really are. All right. So the character of leadership. 3 main legs there: integrity, honesty, and loyalty. All right. While the best leaders must have these attributes, they are not unique to leaders. Okay, so we'll stop here for this session and we'll move to the next session. All right. So the next one, we talked about another part of Nucleus of leadership. Next slide, please. And we said leadership is not about you. It's not about you as a person. Rather, it's about what you do and why you do it. Because as a leader, there are different kinds of leadership styles that are very, very unique and effective. For instance, we have the servant leadership style, which we'll be talking about later. And I dare say that that is one type of leadership that Jesus Christ exhibited. And if you look at leaders throughout time, you see that the leadership style of Jesus Christ was unique and so far is the most effective because he took 12 men, 12 unknown men. He was able to shape them, harness them, and at the end of it, the whole world is yet to recover from what he did to, at least let me say, the 11, because one of them went AWOL. All right, next. Leadership character puts others first, showing them that they matter. This is the complete opposite of what we have today, because the leadership style that we see now around us is usually me first. Me first. Or how would I say it? It's my turn. Yes. Me first. Have you seen leaders, or so-called leaders in our society moving on the road? Have you seen the convoy? Some you can count at least 20 vehicles. And if you look at the worth of each vehicle, it will amaze you. Some of them are bulletproof, expensive vehicles. Just because, they want to have their way. And what usually pains me is that you see a scenario where you have traffic gridlock on the road. And that traffic gridlock is because of leadership failure to fix the roads. And you see those same leaders coming on that road with police, driving against traffic and, clearing everybody. And I said, what kind of leadership style is this? You see them clearing everybody because they have an urgent meeting to attend. So everybody, must clear the way. And if you don't clear the way, they use horsewhip on you just to get to their point because the leadership style is me first. Okay, let's go to the next one. So, there are 2 main aspects of leadership character that we talked about. Think others first and staying optimistic. Think others first and staying optimistic. You see, there's one bank like that had one advert at a particular time. And the one, they say they are the one customer bank. I'm not here to advertise for them, so I won't call their name. So they're the one customer bank. So what they say is that the customer first. And it's a slogan in business that the customer is always right. Customer may be silly, but it's always right. Customer may be wrong, but it's always right. So they think others first. So it's a leadership skill, it's a leadership mindset to put others first before you. You hardly see leaders doing that. But if you look deeper, those that have done well in the leadership sphere have adopted this model. And we talked a lot about a man called Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. I call him LKY for short. That's the abbreviation of his name, LKY. He was a true example of a servant leader. Because at the time he came, his nation, Singapore, was a third world country and one of the poorest. But he was able to put others first by ensuring that they saved money by ensuring that they put certain policies that move that country within the space of 30 years from a third world country to a first-class nation. And I can tell you that Singapore right now has one of the greatest economies in the world. One of the fastest growing economies in the world. It has overtaken those that were, that got independence at the same time, 1965. It has overtaken them by far. That nation is the most policed nation you can think about. And also is the cleanest nation on the face of the earth. That's what they call Singapore. This was transformed by somebody that had that heart of leadership by putting others first. Next one is staying optimistic. So let's talk about thinking others first. Okay. Now, this is the core of great servant leadership. And when you talk of servant leaders, talk of people like I said, Jesus Christ. A good example is how he cleaned the feet of his disciples. Servant leadership means you lead from behind. You think of what others will need first. On a lighter note, there was a comedian that went to, I think it was Paris. And while he was there, he was talking that this place is so different from what we have in Nigeria and others. That you look at everything is done with the mind that I have to do this because of the other person. That they put the interest of people first. That the taxis, when they are moving on the road, they think of others first. They don't just drive up and down. They stop for you to pass. And even the trees that are planted there, they don't just grow anyhow. And they don't share their leaves anyhow. That, okay, as I'm talking, look at the sun. The sun knows that there's a time for us to come out and a time for us to go in. That the sun doesn't just come out anyhow. That the sun thinks of us first before coming out, That's on the lighter note. But see, if you want to excel in leadership, be it in business, be it in the religious circle, or even in your family, you must put others first. A father that will do well in the home must learn to sacrifice. Must sacrifice his interest, sacrifice his comfort for the family to succeed. That's the truth. There are many fathers that are leaders out of position, but they are not servant leaders because it's all about them first. They do everything for themselves first before they think of their wife and their children. And that is selfish. But when you put it in the reverse, you find out that you are able to do things and make progress. So we said thinking others first is the core of great servant leadership. All right. Now, some truth about servant leaders. All right. So it's the highest form of leadership. It's not about who is in charge. People trust leaders with other-centered motives. And servant leaders serve. Somebody say servant leaders serve. They serve. There is a well-known businessman that owns a chain of restaurants in this town. And it is said of him that if he goes to an occasion, one thing that he must do is that at the end of the day, he must serve or wash plates. Because he doesn't see himself above those duties. He will serve. He will get up from his seat, fold his sleeves, and serve plates and go to the kitchen and participate in what they are doing. That is very, very different from the mindset of the average person, particularly in this part of the world. We expect to be served. We expect to be recognized. We expect to, wherever we are, they will recognize you, and they will come and serve you and treat you like a king, and you don't get your hands dirty at all. That is very, very wrong. I can remember some years ago when Pastor Adeboye came to preach, came to minister in one program, and all of a sudden, the sun came out in full force, and it was very hot. And where he was sitting was sheltered. By the time they gave him the mic to minister, he said, no, I won't just minister under this place. I will go outside under the sun so that I will feel the same heat with the other people. That's the heart of a servant leader. And that's what it means to think of others first. In your business, think of the junior employees first. Think of what will favor them. Today in our society, you find out that leaders are buying jets, they are doing all kinds of things, they are doing projects, but the people that help to bring this money, they are the least recognized. For instance, you keep hearing in a nation like ours that pensioners are always crying that nobody has paid them. Have you heard of one governor that retired and they've not paid his pension? Have you heard of it? Have you heard one day that a member of House of Reps or House of Assembly has gone one month without salary. It doesn't happen. That day they will shut down the nation. But you have governors that owe people for 6 months, 1 year. People that are actually they say they should go and do verification the other on the queue. But these are people that have served for upwards of 30, 40 years. Then somebody will just come into governance for 4 years or at most 8 years. Then you give him a house anywhere in this nation. He will determine his pension, 300% salary for life with guards, stewards, everything, and he will change his car every 2 years, brand new cars. Because the leaders we have, they will allocate resources to themselves and get everybody to stamp it before they leave office. But what about the common man? And you see, that's the difference between third world countries and so-called developed countries. In developed countries, everything works. Everything works. Water board, call it police, road sweepers, everything works. And everybody is proud. Proud. You see, there's this guy, this advert of a man, his job was just to stand while the football match is going on, stand and face the crowd to ensure security. And he used to do that with all pride and joy. He will arrive, he will wear his coat, and so he's always backing the match. But because he was so proud of the job, some people looked at him and they decided to recognize him. So one day a lady came and sat opposite him in the crowd and brought out an iPad and was showing the match so that as he was doing his job, he was also seeing the match behind him. But that's because he did his job diligently. Brethren, the first day I arrived Dubai airport, I virtually saw my face in the floor. It was so clean. The people cleaning the floor, if you see the equipment they were using, you yourself, you want to be like them. Everything works. Everything works. That's just the difference. So let's just go to the last part before we close. So optimism. Optimism is a choice. And how can I stay optimistic? Just believe in your ability to create the future of your dream and choose optimism. Optimism is not wishful thinking. It's about seeing the future. Because we say great leaders, they see the future and they create it. You see the future and you create it for your people. You cannot do that except you are optimistic. And what kills optimism is when you dwell on reality, what is going on now. And if you are consumed by what is going on now, it's very, very likely that you will see anything good in future. So I'm going to stop here now and give time for us to have, a discussion. So if you have questions, we'd like to take them. And if you have contributions, we'd like to take them. But we are talking about the nucleus of leadership. We said that the best form of leadership is the servant leader style, like the type Jesus did. And we said there's leadership skill and leadership character. Leadership skill is what you do. And like I said, anybody can learn it. Just carry a John Maxwell book, read it, which is good anyway, and you will have all those things. But leadership character is different because it's deeper, and it drives what you do and why you are doing them at all. That is it. And if you develop leadership character, there is no how you will fail as a leader. And the two pivots of leadership character, they are staying optimistic and thinking of others first. Those are the two pivots. So does anybody have any question or contribution? Okay, is that a question? Okay. Please, I want us to pay attention to our online community if they have questions also.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So, concerning this servant leadership and leadership character also, I just want to bring it back into the church system.
Okay.
I'm coming from the angle of followership more. These days, we see in many churches where you have pastors who just want you to wash their feet and do everything, and when you don't do those things, they tag you rebel. It's not very hard to say. Every little thing will say you're a rebel. So, on many occasions, like recently, someone was telling me how her pastor slapped her. And when she posted this, she was trying to advise other people because that was like the peak of the whole issue. The man had been doing other things before that time. But you know what they keep saying, be patient with your pastor, is your pastor. Maybe God is letting you pass through this thing to bring you to another level and other stuff. So so when the hand reached her, she got fed up, and she was trying to, after like many almost a year, she thought she should also advise people how to contain such things. So in the comments there, I remember seeing somebody saying people don't know how to follow these days, and he posted a particular pastor's message saying how um, I think was it Noah was naked and his son did not cover him. All those kind of stuff. You learn to cover your father's nakedness and the rest, and all those kind of. So how do we balance that kind of leadership? How would you say their followers should follow them? How are we going to follow such people? When do we leave such people? I know there are times when God will tell you stay here, but aside that, how do we? Because sometimes God won't tell you. You have to be wise about this kind of things, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But so how do we follow this?
Follow an abusive leader. Okay, very, very important. Good question. You know, this is our everyday reality. There are all kinds of leaders everywhere. Like I said, in church, in business circles, everywhere, even in the home. So you have an abusive leader that will even slap. Was he slapping out the demon or? Well, it could be that maybe he saw demon inside and said, I need to slap this demon out of this person. Anyway, so you have a leader that will, physically abuse somebody. So he's asking that how do you, follow that kind of leader? Yes. Are there people that have real life examples of that? I believe some of us have passed through. Can we share? Yes. How do you manage that kind of leadership? Yes. Do you, like you said, do you wait on God and say, okay, maybe God is taking me through a process? Yes. So do I have any hands? How do we, or does anybody have any real life experience to share concerning that you are under? Has anybody been under a terrible leader? Okay. All right. So I have one. I have Cookie. Okay. So let's hear from our brother.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
I'd like to start by saying, first off, that there's a place for knowing what is true, knowing what looks like is truth, and being able to differentiate that from our outright lie.
Okay.
Scripture says, first off, that by their fruit you shall know them. And you can't know fruit if as a person you're not able to discern seed from soil, from branches and leaves. So it starts with, as a person, being grounded yourself. And I'm sorry if I'm not saying what sounds pleasant, but the point I'm trying to make is we need to take personal responsibility first.
Yeah.
And grow and know what is right. If you don't know what is right, everything that comes may look like it. I was talking to somebody one time, a young lady, and she was talking about how the person I don't know if she was going to marry or not, but anyway, that she was with
Yes.
was such a nice guy, just that if she does not clean up or do the things he wants, he gets angry, slaps her. And I looked at her and I'm like, I don't get it. And the truth is, as far as he was concerned, it was quite fine. It was just part of the whole package. So bringing that back here, we need to know what is true and know what is not. And that takes the place of us learning for ourselves, hearing clearly from God for time. Because if God has not said to you, stick with a particular thing, then once it is not the right kind of atmosphere and environment for you, you should start asking yourself questions.
Okay.
And then when you deal with people, Somebody said the other day that it's not just to listen to what they are saying. You should actually listen to what they are not saying. If I interact with you, I don't always have to be with you to get a handle on you. Sometimes I should see the things you do with other people and how you react or treat other people, and be able to discern for myself whether this is the place to be or not.
Yeah.
That would be my contribution.
All right. Thank you. Also, let's hear from Rakoke. Then we'll come to our sister. So he says that you should learn to discern and listen to them and see how they treat other people. Very, very important. And from there, you can take your decision. Sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is a life story. I think it's the first time
Can we?
It's a life story.
Can you edit it and make it short? Okay.
The thing, I like what Pastor JC said. We said we have to know the truth also for you to actually identify the truth.
Yeah.
The problem is sometimes we stay and we're learning. We are messing up our minds. Even as leaders, we go on to now lead people that particular way we have learned. It was Pastor K that actually, he said, you're not accessible 3 years ago. People cannot access you. In fact, they cannot access you. They cannot access me. I went back and I told him that my mind has been messed up because of the leaders I've served with. I will learn how to walk with you. He was patient with me. Why? Former leaders, pastors, church leaders, very hard, very harsh in most things. How did I run away? I served, I stayed till the time that I will run away. I didn't burn bridges, but I served. But it was not me. I spoke to a few persons. I spoke to my parents, and I spoke to a leader. I said, this is what I'm going through. And my dad said, don't go back there anymore. Like today is the last day you're going back there. And that's how I resigned instantly. I didn't go back until when I resigned formally.
Okay.
Sometimes I think the person should go away from your thinking. Ask other credible leaders, how do I navigate from these things? But again, after that process, please go back for rehab. Most times, leaders will serve under mess up our mind.
All right. So you say you should go back for a recap. Okay, a rehab. Okay. All right. Did that help, Ticc? What he said, did that help? Okay, so let's hear from our sister. Is there another person that wants to talk on this? Okay, I have one hand, so I'll take
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yes, I wanted to give a short testimony. But first of all, I want to say that we are all called to be leader, or we are all called to express our leadership. It's something that God called each of us. So a leader is not a position. So now when you find someone that leads with emotion, because for me it's whether it's emotion or a background, because sometimes we lead according to our own experience, violence, some kind of emotive people like that.
Okay.
So it happened for me to go in a church that the leader was a very emotional person. When it's not right, he will shout on people. When it's fine, he will praise. So I was like, this one should find balance. So how do I do? Because we are not going to survive with this. And I was called to work with him for short term. So I didn't know. I was praying. And I just felt like I should be close to that person, like build a friendship with him. So I started to be close, discussing sometime to know more about his life, what is going on. And I discovered that he has so many wounds. He was wounded when he was a child. So he believed, he was very strong in his mind that you should lead by authority, like by force, and I was like, it's not like that. When you see Jesus, what Jesus used to do, he was like, just express the fruit of the Holy Spirit. Patience, kindness, like discipline, but not this way. So I really encouraged that person, and somehow I discovered that he has been wounded, but it didn't take time to go before the Lord to find help, to be healed. And he just find himself expressing that hunger sometimes when you don't do what he wants. So I was like, no, it's not like that. So we took time to pray, to discuss, and He was even crying, a pastor. So I was like, God, help him, because he has the willing. He loves his ministry, but he just don't know how to do because he's still wounded. So there is a time like that when you see the pastor is doing wrong or the leader is doing wrong. Pray for the person, and if the Holy Spirit bring you close to the person, just encourage him. We need each other to grow. So leader is not a position. Leader is not a human being that is fulfilling the call that God called him to do or to be. Thank you.
All right. So you are saying that we should pray for the leader because the leader might be going through serious things, right? All right. Good. All right, Chimsa.
Praise God. Okay, so I just want to take our minds a little out of context.
Okay.
We've been discussing church, pastor,
Yes.
and member relationship.
Yes.
So I want to draw our minds to an employee and an employer relationship.
Yes.
Now, it's similar scenario.
Exactly.
So I had this very terrible boss when I was on my youth service. In fact, the guy, there was a day he even shot at the guy. Like he literally shot at the guy who was staying with me. You know, but one thing I told myself, the lady who was posted with me to that place of primary assignment, she couldn't survive for 2 months. She left. And I told myself, I said I was going to make sure I stay here and make sure my 1 year with this guy is done.
We die here.
I die here. You know, so whichever way he wanted us to. So I wasn't confronting him. I was not confrontational about it, but I had to understand, like Pastor Chidi said, discern. I had to understand what this man really needs from somebody who is following him, who is serving him. And I discovered what he needed. It wasn't so rosy for me at some point, but for me, the catch for it was I learned to work with anybody. So I didn't just take his hard style. I refused to be the victim. Because sometimes you have the option of changing your pastor. Sometimes it's an easy decision to make. But it's not so much of an easy decision to make to change your boss, right? Or to change your work, your company where you work or something. You know, so I made up my mind that I'm not going to be the victim in this. I would rather know what this man wants. Every man has a price on him. Every man has his price. And at the end of the day, I was even shocked when, you know, I had finished serving, I had locked up my house, put things in the car, locked his house, Oga, come out and take your key. He refused to come out. For 2 hours, I was knocking on his door. I didn't know he had called the whole community to come. You know, they came, and at that point, that was the glory point for me because he was now comparing me with the other guy who was in the compound. He said, this guy is better, and this guy is bad, in the presence of everybody. And people were like, is it the same man that was coming to tell us you're a devil? You understand? So I learned to understand, to discern how he wanted me to follow. It wasn't so easy. Fast forward, 2020, I had a boss, another boss, who so roughened me up verbally that I went into the toilet, I locked the toilet, and I started crying. 2020, I started crying, and I came back. I was like, this lady is similar to this guy I worked. So what did I do that worked for me with this chief that can work for me with this lady? And I went to work. I didn't just sleep. I started trying to understand why, like our sister also said, understand why she reacts. And I discovered that, every leader is not perfect. No matter that the person has attained the place of leadership, there's always an Achilles heel to every leader you find.
All right.
You understand? So I was able to understand that. And today, me and that same person who roughened me up some years ago, we are best of. In fact, I'm even now her assistant. You understand? So it's an option to run away. But staying gives you a different perspective that can help you in tomorrow.
All right. Let's put our hands together for these wonderful contributions. You see, humanly speaking, when you are under a leader that is abusive or is inconsiderate, the first thing that comes to your mind is to take off. That's the first feeling you have, humanly speaking. But I think you need to look at it from a different perspective. You as an individual, you need to see yourself also as a leader. So don't just see it as me being under a leader. See yourself as a developing leader also. and think of how you will manage the situation. Because even if you live under those circumstances, tomorrow you too will lead. And you need certain experiences for you to form. Now, just take your mind, but just imagine. You know of the man called Joseph in the Bible? You know of Joseph? Joseph was under a leader. Do you know that? He had a boss. Who was his boss? No, at the end, when he was elevated, who was his boss? Pharaoh. How do you think Pharaoh was? As a pastor, a man of God. The nation of Egypt was not a Christian nation, was not a godly nation. Hope you know that. They had their own gods. So Joseph would have to serve under an, in quote, ungodly leader, Pharaoh. Pharaoh was a god with little g on his own. Pharaoh was a little god. And remember that Pharaoh gave his daughter to Joseph to marry. No toasting, no. Just give her to marry. So Joseph was his in-law. So if Pharaoh was a mini god that would go to the Nile and conjure, that is your father-in-law, will you run away? To where? What about Daniel? What about Daniel? Can you remember Daniel? Daniel served under King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. And we as Christians, we are talking about something that is ungodly. We'll call it, we'll say Babylon. Babylon or Egypt. But you had Daniel serving in Babylon. And they said Daniel was the most preferred. So how did he do it? How did he do it? Although I will just put an exception, particularly for a lady, when it starts getting abusive and you are scared for your safety, then you can take other measures because anything can happen. Okay? But the first decision is not flight. It's not to run away. You think of how you can manage your boss, manage upwards. You see, and that's why PK said something that you don't need position to be a leader. At times, even a gate man can be a leader. Being a leader is knowing what to do at every given point in time. So, like Tim said, you can learn who your leader is and manage that person. Whether in church, whether in business, whether in sports, or even in the home, you can manage that person. And I think that should be the objective, of the person that is going through that process. There are so many sides to it, but that's what I will counsel. All right? All right, thank you. I want to give time for more questions. Is this a question? Or are you talking about the same one? Okay, questions. All right, sir. Please here.
Good morning, church.
Morning.
I will start by commenting on the Nigerian leaders.
Okay.
I think they go in a convoy of 20 cars to show that they have followers. Praise the Lord. Okay, my question.
Okay.
Jesus had 12 disciples.
Yes.
And one of them happened to betray him.
Yes.
In that context, if you are a positional leader, let me even use that, and out of the people you are leading, you clearly know that one of them is working against you, is likely to betray you and sabotage you. How would you manage that kind of situation?
All right.
Yeah, but Jesus knew, but he didn't do anything to do that.
All right. So you're a leader, you have subordinates under you, and you know that one of them is trying to undo you, trying to betray you or sabotage your effort. So how do you manage that person? Yes. Yes. Okay, there's a hand there. Quickly. Let's make it brief because of our time.
Praise God. This is more like a practical experience.
Yes.
Now, I was transferred recently to a new location and I had a new set of direct reports. And they were actually 6 in number. So my company introduced something we call upward feedback. And there's this particular guy in my team. He's more of a, to me, he's not a salesperson. That is my general conclusion about him. He's more of an office person. But it was quite unfortunate he found himself in the field, sales work. So he was performing very poorly. And I was always on him, trying my best to ensure he comes up to speed. Now the pressure of the work most times tells on the leader. So we don't know most times when we go extreme anyway. But however, when we had the upward feedback, I was going through the review and I saw a particular review. Meanwhile, before that time, before the report feedback, I've been having some side talks. Some people will come to me and was like, what did you do to this guy? He's always talking bad about you. I was like, let him be. So during the report feedback, I was actually going through the review and I saw a very, very striking review. Very, very, in fact, very devastating review. And I was like, everything about me knew it was this particular guy.
Okay, you have to cut this narration.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how I actually handled that situation is, I didn't take it personal, even though I knew. I rather increase my supportive role to him, tried as much as I can to help him develop. He was still not developing. Now the good news is I was moved out and a new manager came in. And the new manager also saw the same thing in him, and the time came when they wanted to drop some sales reps and the new manager recommended him to be dropped, and he was dropped. So it was more like I was giving him the support he needed, but he did not see it. But a new person came in and dropped him instantly. So if you have that kind of a person, what you need to do is, rather than take it out on the person, you give the person more support. That's just...
Okay, you give the person more support. So in other words, you are saying that Jesus should draw Judas closer. Okay, all right. Good, okay, so... Sam Oski. So please, can you just make it brief? Then we'll have two more here. Just make it. What would you do?
Not everybody will like you.
Yeah.
People will definitely hate you. So if
Yeah.
you have someone in your team who is always antagonizing,
Yes.
I think you could always leverage on his ideas. What
Okay.
I'll do is I'll bring discussion to the table.
Okay.
You want to be the champion.
Okay.
Always puts the person in front, and the person will have a sense of what the person wants is recognition. The person will have a sense of responsibility. You still show the person love. At the end of the day, the person is human. Shades of pride will let go.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, let's hear from you. Because at times, not that if the person wants recognition, at times the person may want your job. Yes. Sir.
Praise the Lord. I have somebody that I pay.
Yes.
And this guy wants to wreck my business.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried all measures to make him come to his senses, and he's not responding. I will drop him. Simple. I've also worked with somebody in my team, an assistant, that wanted my job by all means.
Yes.
I know. I cannot drop him. I did not employ him. He's there to support. And he has the backup. The leaders want him, this connection. I came in through another source, and this is their person, so they want. But God helped me. The guy was not as experienced as I was in the field. So since he was interested, I allowed him to do the job, and he will always fail. So I came in, and over time, he saw me as his coach and a mentor. I know his heart. I started building other persons that could do better than him, even when I was there. So before I left, he had competitors. He had people to, so he was, even before I left, those guys were challenging him, not me. I built a team that was able to face him without him knowing. Praise the Lord.
Thank you very much. Okay, yes, what will you do? Okay. So that is a very, very strategic leader.
That's very Machiavellian. No, but I think if it works, it works. I would also say that when it comes to betrayal, there's something Reverend Ajitomobi said the other day. It's either you've been betrayed, you're being betrayed, or you're about to be betrayed. So put differently, breakfast can only be delayed, it cannot be denied.
Yeah.
So if you have that at the back of your mind, what you then do is work on your psyche and work on the persons that you think or seem to be interested in carrying out these things. One thing you do is tell yourself, this will happen.
Yes.
And then prep for it. Second thing you do is put a support structure around yourself such that when it happens, you can still bounce back and keep going. And then third thing, like Jesus did with Judas, if you've pinpointed who it is, as much as possible, give them all the support they need to become the best them that they can be.
Yeah.
Because if people don't manifest, the Pauls of Tarsus will not step into their positions.
Good, let's put hands together for that. All right, wonderful. Okay, so it's a very tough one. Somebody wants to undo you, you know the person is your team. It could be that you are the employer. It could be that you are in an organization where you're just the leader, but not the employer. And all you guys have said, they have been useful, honestly. But I think that one thing you should do is first to sit back and assess the situation and find out what does this person really want. What does this person really want? So the answer you get from that will determine what approach you use. There are some people that should just go. There are some people that should just go, and the earlier, the better. There are some that you give them what they want. Like he said, they want power. So if possible, create another structure, put them in charge, give them their own team, and let them work. And Ticc gave us an example like this last time, that guy, his true nature showed because he failed. So there are people like that. There are some that when you see that they are trying to undo, you bring them close because maybe they just want a piece of the power. So you bring them close, and you see there's somewhere that said, draw your enemies closer, so that you know what they are thinking. And before you know, they become your friends. So the first thing is to assess the situation. What does this person really want? Because for them to be exhibiting that kind of character, there is something that is at the core, that is biting them, that they really, really want to express. So find out what their need is and address it. I think that will help. Okay, I think there's a question from somebody here. Somebody raised their hand. Okay, we just have a few minutes, so can you?
Praise God. I want to say thank you to you for stepping into the big shoe. And I also want to say thank you to Pastor K in absentia for always investing in us.
Yes.
So I was trying to open where I saw my notes, and Pastor K, in the course of his teaching, he said, "Is the lack of demonstration of leadership character that's what derails the leader, and not the lack of leadership skills." I have seen. Okay, let me quote David. David was an amazing person in the Bible, but he had some leadership flaws. But he still ended up, he had some character flaws, if I would say, but he still ended up having followership, turning 400 men who were nonchalant to, within. So I have also seen good people who do not have leadership skills, but they have character and they are not able to do what David did.
Yes.
So I would like you to help create a balance. Is it that all we need is just the character, and because I have good heart, I have integrity, I have honesty, I'll create good leaders, or I still need intentionality and skills? Please help me create that balance.
All right,
Thank
great.
you.
Because of our time, I'll just dive deep into this one. Now, you see, like what we're taught is that leadership skill can be learned. It can be learned, but the core or the anchor, what keeps leadership is the character. So if you see persons can have that leadership character, but they may not be skillful at leading. By skill, I mean the skill of planning, delegating, and all that. So if there is the leadership character, which is honesty, which is integrity and loyalty, it can be developed. The others can be developed. The skill can be developed. So what I would advise such a person to do is to draw close to other leaders that are probably doing better. Draw close, and upskill, learn from them, learn from their experiences, and also develop yourself intentionally. Now, you don't just become a leader overnight, but you become a leader, daily. So you start going through several, experiences and all that. Those are the things that will shaping the person into that mold. But it takes time and intentionality. So when you see somebody like that, that kind of person needs mentorship. It needs mentorship. It needs to be close to somebody that is doing better, at leadership. And that's how the person can develop with time. That's what I would say with that. All right. Now, is there any other question? Do we have any questions from our online people? None. Okay, so I think this probably will be the last.
It's a suggestion, sir.
Sorry, ma. Did that help, ma? Stanjera? Did that help? Okay, thank you.
It's a suggestion.
Okay.
I know we talk about leadership a lot, and everybody here, we're leaders and how to carry ourselves. But we have different leaders also in church. We have Pastor K. We have example. We have Mr. Omo.
Yes.
We have Pastor Oko.
Yes.
So they have different personalities
Yes.
and how they amazing leaders, but different approach.
Yeah.
So I want to beg, Pastor is watching, that can we also treat followership? Because you hear people come, I can't stay under this. He's a good man,
Yes.
a good leader, but different approach.
Yes.
So we also treat followership, how people can be better followers.
What do you mean tweet followership? Okay, treat. Okay, treat. Okay, I thought you said treat. Okay, yes. Okay, thank you very much for that wonderful suggestion. Treat followership. Okay, so you said Pastor is watching, so I'm sure Pastor will respond very soon. All right, thank you. So we're rounding up, and in rounding up, I just want to give us a recap. Remember what Pastor said. He said something about not focusing on failure. You know, I wanted to bring this up, but we don't have much time. Don't focus. If you want to be a good leader, you don't focus on failures. And that is one of the things that really drags people down. A lot of people have leadership capacity. They have the ability, but they are being weighed down by their past failure. When they think of where they tried and failed, they say, man, leave, I can't do it. Or maybe they failed an election or something. They said, no, this is not for me. And because of that, you see them shying away, you know. They are not able to step up to the plate when the need arises. So if you want to be a leader, a good leader, you need to learn to look beyond your failures. So I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank you for your questions, your contributions. I want to thank you for your comments. And I want to assure you that even as you participate in the subsequent lectures and sessions, it will imbibe, something will drop off on you. Definitely, if you concentrate, you see that that leadership aspect of your life will be developed. So I want to encourage you to always show up when we're having this topic, because leadership, I tell you, is the core of everything we want to do, be it in the home, be it in your business, be it in sports, be it in church. If you can get it right, I can assure you that half the job is already done. Thank you very much. We have just a few minutes for service.